There's a quiet kind of pain that comes with trying to be perfect. A constant hum in the background, like static you've learned to live with. It doesn't scream, but it never really stops either. You wake up each day already bracing for what might go wrong, for who you might disappoint, for the ways you'll fall short. It's exhausting, but you don't know another way to exist. Somewhere along the line, you decided that perfection would keep you safe. That if you got everything right, no one could hurt you. That flawlessness would make you unshakable. Control would mean security. But perfection is a mask with a heavy price, and the more you wear it, the more invisible you become. Not because no one sees you, but because they only see the version you perform. The curated you, the acceptable you, polished, pleasing, palatable version. And somewhere in that performance, you start to vanish. The real you becomes a ghost behind the smile. You wonder if anyone would still stay if they saw the mess. The fear says no, so you keep performing. You keep managing every detail. You keep erasing the parts of yourself that don't feel good enough. And over time, you forget what you even look like without the mask. That's the heartbreak of perfectionism. It promises love, but builds loneliness. It promises control, but delivers fear. You become a stranger to your own softness, a caretaker of everyone's comfort but your own. You apologize for existing in ways that aren't tidy. You minimize your needs. You over-explain your boundaries. And still, you wonder, is it enough? Have I finally earned safety? Have I finally earned love? But love that must be earned isn't love. It's a transaction. And you were never meant to be a product. You were not a project to be perfected. You are a person, whole, flawed, and worthy. You don't have to be extraordinary to be enough. You don't have to impress anyone to be seen. But this truth feels hard to hold when your worth has always felt conditional. When love was offered only when you performed. When approval meant suppressing who you really were. So you learned to hide. To smile instead of speak. To shine instead of struggle. And the world rewarded you for it. They called you strong. They called you graceful. They called you so put together. But inside you were unraveling. Not from weakness, but from the weight of never being allowed to be real. You didn't ask for this armor, but now it's fused to your skin. And the thought of taking it off feels like too much, like exposure, like danger. Because perfectionism isn't just about achievement, it's about protection, about trying to avoid shame, about trying to be wanted. And when you dig deep, you realize it's not perfection you're really after. It's belonging. It's tenderness. It's a place where your whole self is welcome. Even the parts that don't shine. Especially the parts that don't shine. But you can't receive that kind of love if you never show who you truly are. You can't be held if you never let yourself fall. You can't feel seen when you're always hiding. So maybe the bravest thing isn't being perfect. Maybe it's being honest. Maybe it's letting someone in, even just a little. Letting the armor crack. Letting the mess show. Letting the softness speak. There's a different kind of strength in that. One that doesn't need to perform. One that just needs to breathe. And rest. And be. You've been strong in silence for long enough. It's okay to be strong in softness now. It's okay to stop trying to be perfect. You were never meant to be flawless. We're meant to be free. To be whole. To be known. And you still can be, even now, even here. With every fear still trembling inside you. You are still worthy of love. Exactly as you are. Perfectionism doesn't begin with ambition. It begins with fear. Fear of being too much. Fear of being not enough. Fear of being seen before you're ready. So you armor yourself with control. You build a version of you that can't be criticized, that always says the right thing, that never asks for too much, that never lets the cracks show. Because somewhere a long time ago, you learned that mistakes make love disappear, that flaws make people pull away. So you tried to become flawless, not to be admired, but to stay safe. This isn't vanity. It's self-preservation, and it's lonely. Because no one really knows you. They know the version you think they'll accept. The one you rehearsed. The one you polished in your mind 100 times before speaking? You become a mirror, reflecting what others need. But where are you in that reflection? Where is the softness, the messiness, the realness? You lose sight of it? You lose sight of yourself? Over time it begins to ache, quietly like a phantom limb. The person you used to be before the performance. You miss your own laughter, your own spontaneity, the way you once didn't care so much. But perfectionism trades authenticity for approval. It never gives you both. You long to be seen, but only in the best light, only when the lighting is soft. The words are rehearsed, timing is right, but love doesn't live there. Real connection begins where perfection ends, where the voice trembles, where the story doesn't have a neat ending, where the tears come uninvited. You've been holding back for so long, guarding every word, filtering every feeling, making sure no one sees you before you've edited yourself. But you're allowed to be unpolished. You're allowed to be real, even if your voice shakes, even if your story isn't tidy. The ones who truly care won't run from your vulnerability. They'll stay. They'll say, "Me too." That's the thing perfectionism never lets you feel, that you're not alone. It keeps you in a one-person show, center stage, but utterly isolated. The curtain always up, the mask always on, but your heart is tired. Your soul wants rest, not applause, not praise, just a place to exhale. And B, you're allowed to take the mask off, even if only in small ways, even if only with one person. That's where it begins, with one moment of softness, one breath of truth, one step toward yourself, the self behind the performance, the one who doesn't have to impress anyone, not even you, especially not you. You've been too hard on yourself for too long, expecting yourself to be everything all the time. But even the sun sets, even the waves rest. You are allowed to be human, incomplete, unfinished, in progress, and still loved, especially then, especially when you're still learning how to love yourself. You don't need to arrive before you're embraced. You don't need to be perfect to be seen. You just need to be real. That's all anyone truly wants from you. Your realness, your humanness, your honest, imperfect self. The one who's been hiding for far too long, waiting for permission to come forward. This is that permission. This is your invitation back to yourself, not to perform, but to be. You weren't born afraid of being seen. That came later, after too many moments of vulnerability met with discomfort, dismissal, or silence. So you started editing yourself, trimming your softness, hiding your needs, curating a version of you that felt more acceptable, more polished, more palatable. That version was praised. You were called responsible, high-achieving, mature beyond your years. But no one asked what it was costing you. No one saw the loneliness underneath, the ache of never being your full self. You began to associate safety with performance, approval with invisibility. Perfection became your armor and your prison. Because when people only love the version of you that performs, the real you feels unloved, unwelcome, too much, or not enough. So you try harder, make fewer mistakes. Smile when you're breaking. Carry what hurts in silence. And each time, you disappear a little more, until you can't remember who you were before the mask, or if there's still someone beneath it. But there is. It's the part of you that still longs to be known, to be held, to be messy and loved anyway. That longing is not weakness. It's a compass. It's pointing you back to yourself. You don't need to earn love by being flawless. You don't need to disappear to be accepted. What if the people who truly matter are the ones who want to see your whole self? It's not just the polished parts, not just the version that impresses, but the one that trembles, that doubts, that breaks down sometimes. Real love doesn't flinch at your softness, or recoil from your imperfections. It holds you there, as you are, not as you perform. So if you feel like you're always on stage, maybe it's time to step off, to come back to yourself, to choose rest over performance, healing over perfection. It's not failure, that's freedom. You were never meant to be a performance. You were meant to be a person, messy, honest, tender, whole. And you still are, even beneath all the roles, even under all the pressure. The self you hid to be safe is still there, waiting patiently for you to return. For you to believe she's worth showing up as, even if others don't understand, even if not everyone stays, because the cost of invisibility is too high. And the world needs the you that's real, not the one you curated to be loved, but the one who exists before the mask. It's the one who still aches to be seen. Start there, with the ache, with the whisper, I want to be real again. And see what softens in you when you let that be true. What eases when you stop performing. What returns when you stop running from yourself. You are not too much. You are not unworthy. You are simply someone who tried to survive. And now you're learning how to live. Slowly, gently, as you are, without the perfection, without the mask. Just you. Just here. Just enough. That is where the healing begins. Perfectionism often hides something deeper than high standards. It hides a longing to be loved without being abandoned. A fear that the real you is too much or not enough. So you try to be flawless, because maybe then they'll stay. Maybe then they won't criticize. Maybe then you'll finally feel safe. But this safety is conditional. It's a safety that disappears the moment you mess up. And deep down you know that. That's why perfectionism never lets you rest. It always has one more rule, one more thing to fix. It convinces you that if you just try harder, you'll finally be loved right. But that love never arrives, at least not in the way you need. Because love built on performance isn't real safety. It's a contract, not a connection. It's approval, not affection. And the price is always your authenticity. You lose yourself trying to become someone else's idea of lovable. The tragedy is, you don't even realize it at first. You just know you feel tired, numb, unseen. But you keep showing up in the mask, because the mask has worked. At least on the surface. You got the praise, you got the attention. But still, you feel alone in a crowded room. Because no one really knows you. Not fully. How can they when you're always editing yourself? Always wondering, will they still care if I stop being impressive? Will they leave if I stop being useful? That fear shapes everything. Makes it hard to speak up, to say you're struggling, to say you're hurt. So you say nothing, you smile instead. You take on more than you can handle. You pretend it's fine. You give and give and give. Until your body starts to break down. Until you can't remember the last time you felt joy. But even then, you tell yourself, keep going. Don't be weak. Don't make a scene. This is how you stay needed. This is how you stay wanted. But what if it's not? What if your real self is already enough? What if the ones worth keeping are the ones who can see your flaws and stay anyway? What if being imperfect is the very thing that makes connection possible? Because people don't bond through perfection, they bond through truth, through shared vulnerability, through Me Too moments. But those can only happen when you stop hiding, when you risk being seen. Not the curated version, but the full, messy, beautiful you. That's terrifying. But it's also freeing, because masks may protect you from judgment. But they also block you from intimacy. They keep you safe and lonely. Seen, but not known. Valued, but not loved. The cost is too high. You weren't made to perform your way through life. You were made to be held in your realness. Even if that realness is complicated. Even if it makes others uncomfortable. It's not your burden to carry. Your job is not to make everyone feel okay about your humanity. Your job is to be whole. To take up space without apology. To stop editing yourself into someone else's comfort. You are not a product. You are not a brand. You are a person with tenderness and limits. And those limits don't make you less worthy. They make you real. They make you relatable. They make you human. And being human is not a flaw. It's a miracle. You don't have to hide it anymore. You don't have to earn rest or love or space. You're allowed to show up as is. Messy, in progress, not perfect. Still enough, still worthy, still lovable. Let that truth soften the edges of your striving. Let it remind you that being real is more powerful than being perfect. Always has been, always will be. Let's talk about where this fear began. Most perfectionists weren't born, they were made, shaped in childhood by invisible contracts. Contracts that said, be good and you'll be safe. Be easy and you'll be loved. Don't make mistakes, or else. Maybe you had to be the quiet one, the achiever, the fixer. The one who held everything together, became what others needed, not what you were. You became the emotional adult before you were ready. The cost was your voice, your softness, your right to fall apart. So you built walls, walls of excellence, of performance, always being the one who has it together. But no one asked if you were okay. No one noticed your exhaustion, because you made it look easy. That's what perfectionists do. They bleed quietly. They shine while they're drowning. They offer help they desperately need. And because they're so strong, no one checks in. They become emotionally invisible, seen for their function, not their feelings. It's valued for what they do, not who they are. And this invisibility becomes a trap, because now being seen feels unsafe. Vulnerability feels like exposure, like walking into the room without armor, like telling the world, I need something too. You're not sure anyone will hold that gently, so you stay quiet. You apologize for your needs. You'll call yourself too sensitive. You'll shrink every time you feel too human. But you're not too sensitive. You're just finally starting to feel again. And that's not weakness. It's healing. Healing from years of suppression. Years of being the one who never asked for anything. Years of being useful but never held. So now, of course, you're afraid to be seen. Because the last time you were honest, maybe it cost you something. Affection, belonging, safety. That's not your fault, but you deserve to rewrite that story. To practice showing up without the mask. To let others see the messy parts, even if it's awkward at first. Even if your voice shakes, that's still you. Brave and becoming. The truth is, perfectionism is a lonely place. It's a glass box where no one gets too close. You perform, and they applaud. But applause is not the same as being held. Praise is not the same as love. And over time, your soul starts to know the difference. It craves softness, not standards. Connection, not comparison. You want to be chosen, not for being the best, but for being real. And that's possible. But first you have to come out of hiding. You have to let go of the myth that you must be flawless to be worthy. You don't. No one does. The most lovable people in your life aren't perfect. They're honest, they're kind, they're whole in their humanness. And you can be too. You don't have to win love anymore. You don't have to earn the right to rest. You don't have to prove your value with achievements. You just have to let yourself be known. Bit by bit. Let the walls down slowly. Let someone in. Let yourself cry in front of them. Let them stay. If they leave, let that be information, not confirmation. Doesn't mean you're unworthy. Just means they weren't ready for your truth. But you are. You're ready to stop performing. Ready to be whole. Ready to be seen and held. Just as you are. No fixing required. No sparkle necessary. Just your quiet beating heart. Still learning. Still worthy. Still enough. Healing from perfectionism isn't about becoming careless. It's about becoming kinder, especially to yourself. It's about realizing that being lovable and being flawless are not the same thing. That you are not a project. You are not a performance. You are a person. Breathing, breaking, becoming. And in that becoming, there will be mess. There will be days you falter. Days you drop the mask and panic. Days when being seen feels like being burned. But those days are sacred, because they mean you are stepping out of the shadows. You are choosing truth over image, connection over control. You're learning to let people love you. Not the version of you curated, but the one who is scared. The one who cries in the shower. The one who doesn't have all the answers. And that version is just as worthy. Maybe even more, because they are real. Realness invites love that stays. Perfection invites applause. But applause fades. Real love holds. Real love listens. Real love doesn't wait for you to get it together. It sits with you while you fall apart. So maybe it's time. Time to stop auditioning. Time to stop editing yourself down to what feels acceptable. You're allowed to be loud. You're allowed to be unsure. You're allowed to be too much. And still beloved. You are not a burden for needing space. Or help. Or grace. And you're not a failure for finally getting tired of pretending. Pretending to be fine. Pretending to be strong. Pretending that nothing ever hurts. That's not strength. That's survival. And you've done that beautifully. But now you get to do more than survive. You get to live. And living means letting the wrong people leave. Letting the right ones see you. It means resting without guilt. Saying no without apology. Crying without shame. It means learning that your softness is not a flaw. Your fear is not failure. Your humanity is not something to overcome. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be real. Real is how love finds you, not the mask. Not the polished version, the parts you thought you had to hide. They are not too much. They are not wrong. They are waiting to be held. And one day, someone will. Yeah. Maybe they already do. Maybe the first person who needs to is you. So look in the mirror gently, not to fix, but to greet, to say, I see you now. Sorry for making you disappear. You don't have to earn love anymore. You already deserve it, just as you are, with your cracked edges, with your trembling hands, with your unfinished stories. You're still enough, still deserving, still here. And the world is softer because of you, so let the armor go, bit by bit. You won't lose yourself. You'll finally return to who you've always been. Whole, fragile, brilliant in your brokenness. Perfect, not in spite of your flaws. But because of them, you are not a machine. You are a miracle, a work of heart, not of artifice. You don't need to hide anymore. You're allowed to be seen. You're allowed to be loved. You're allowed to be. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.